Hello, everybody. Welcome to the EGX Rezzed Game Jam. Woo! Yeah, okay, woo! So this is the crazy competition where 6 teams have spent one day, about 8 hours, making a game from scratch. They've been given a brief. In this case, it was Touch, as inspired by Intel, who are the sponsor. They've got a new range of Ultrabooks, so Touch is their thing. So Touch is the theme of the game. And these guys, over here predominantly, have all been making a game, and they will come up and present their game, each in turn, and then our lovely judges, who I'll introduce you to in a second, will give them a short bit of feedback, and then at the end they will deliberate on a grand winner. And at the end we'll also give you guys a chance to cheer. You've already shown that you're really good at cheering, so let's do a bit more of that. So I'll introduce you to our judges first. Here we have Martin Littlewood from Yogscast. Hello. Got a cheer. We have this guy here. I don't know if you know who he is. It's Dean Hall, creator of DayZ. Hi, Dean. They haven't got a microphone, so they effectively can't talk. We have Will Porter, also known as the Velvet Owl from Project Zomboid. It's Will Porter! And then we have Gary Napper here from making Alien Isolation, which scared the pants off me earlier. We have Rami Ismail here from Vlambeer, Luftrausers, which you might play. It's out now. In fact, you can play it. So, hi, Rami. And then finally, at the end there, our final boy band member, we have Mike Biffle, creator of Thomas Was Alone and Volume. So I'm excited to see what these guys have created. We've got a lot to get through. So our first team is Brain Cartridge. Give them a big hand. Their game is Midas. Let's see it.
Hi everyone. Are we on? No, we're not ready to go.
Slight technical hitch. Happens all the time making games.
Is it going to be on the screen?
Yay!
Hey, there we go. So yeah, we're Team Brain Cartridge, and this is our game Midas. Ta-da! At the start of the jam, we actually came up with the idea for the game pretty quickly. We got in a little huddle and sort of threw around all sorts of different ideas, and then someone suggested, oh, what about the Midas Touch from the ancient Greek legends? And we thought, yeah, that's an amazing idea, let's go. And so zoomed back to all the computers and then thought, what game are we actually going to make with that?
Yeah, so we came up with this concept pretty quickly, and we had the idea that everything's going to turn to gold, obviously, because of Midas. But instead of being solid objects, we decided to make them into coins, because then they've got sort of physics, rigid bodies, and you can move them around and interact with them, and push them forward to get into places and climb on top of things.
And as we had both a 2D artist and a 3D artist, we were able to create the assets and the environments quite quickly and efficiently, especially with 8 hours in total. And we also wanted the 3D objects, like the crates, coins and pillars, to be interactable with the player, whilst the character was more 2D.
Yeah, at the point where we had to do prototyping and some placeholder art, I actually came out with this idea of getting a ghost just to save some time, just as placeholder art. And when we put it in the game, we actually found that it does make sense and it actually looks quite good. So we changed the game mechanic about it.
Yeah, so once we imported, originally in the prototype, we had this sort of fast-moving character who wall jumped and flipped around quite quickly. But as soon as we imported the ghosts, we were like, okay, this isn't really going to work, we need to change the game a bit. So we sort of made him a bit slower moving, he descends and glides a bit. And that kind of helped later on. As you're going to see here, we've got some platforming. Now, if you're big on platformers, you probably know you normally climb quite vertically with platformers, but ours, you climb quite horizontally because he's tall, so his hitbox is quite tall, so we'll bang his head otherwise. So I designed this level on pen and paper, so I wanted to show off a few mechanics, like being able to push things around. So we've got these coins and the spikes down there, but now we've just pushed them in front, so now we don't have to confront them. And likewise, I can press this and this tower falls down. So that was previously in my way, but now it's not going to be. So originally, when we had the sort of 2D and 3D going together, we had some kind of Frankenstein's monster of both of them. But then, as time went on, we implemented sort of this nice back wall and the torches and stuff. And so it suddenly sort of came into its own and started to look more like a proper game and less like something that had just been sort of shoved together out of the assets of the two. And we wanted to give a proper sort of meaning to the ending of the game rather than just making it, oh, you win. So we've given the player this choice of, oh, there's this hell door and this heaven door, and which one do you want to unlock? So if I can actually do it, they climb up here and get the key to pick the door, but they don't actually get to pick because it turns to gold.
And that's the meaning of the game, so yeah.
So here, just quickly at the end, the credits turn to gold.
Yeah, we kind of had some time at the end, but not quite enough time to implement some more stuff. So yeah, our names just turned into gold bling. But we had a couple of ideas of things we wanted to add to the game as well. So, for example, on the platforms, if you had the ropes, if they then turn to gold, it could be both a good and a bad thing. So maybe the platform falls down and it blocks a lava flow, so you're able to jump across, or maybe you accidentally bump into it and then you can't get to the top of the platform.
Yeah, so likewise with the ropes, if you're thinking of the ropes bursting into coins and there's a box attached to it, then once the box falls down, these coins will form a protective layer over it, so then you can't touch the box anymore. But once you start walking over the coins, they'll slide off the box, so you've got to be really careful about when you use them, so you'll normally move across and set up a level before you actually go and complete it.
Yeah, I mean, the game's pretty much about choice, and it's the touching things and turning them into gold can be both a good thing and a bad thing, and it's kind of up to you, the player, to decide. So another example is you have, maybe you have something and you don't want to turn it to gold, so you turn something else to gold and you sort of push along the coins, and the coins push along whatever it is to the place it needs to be.
Yeah. And likewise, if you have some object that you need to move around with the coins, if you use too many, you might engulf it in coins, and then it's inaccessible. And we were thinking as well, with the whole Archimedes thing, you could have water that rises, or as you push coins down it, the water level rises, and then you can sort of jump over the top of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, or equally, going back to the lava flow, you have the sort of coins fall in the lava and then they slowly melt, so you've got to quickly jump, put as many coins in and then quickly jump across to get to the other side.
Yeah, we didn't have time to do that, so...
So that's in version 2. So yeah, that's our game.
All right, fantastic. Okay, now imagine it's like X Factor, and our judges are going to give a short piece of feedback. Guys, stay on stage just for a second, while we get a little bit of feedback. Okay, starting with Mike.
Yeah, the burst into coins is cool. I can see a lot of uses for that, and I think that'd be an interesting thing to expand.
You have 25,000 emails. Holy shit. I had the same thing. I saw a lot of opportunity. I would have liked to see you explore that a bit more instead of ending the ending and the floating puzzle halfway with the spikes.
Gold. Always believe in your soul. Seriously, I really like the guys. You took a concept and then you identified a mechanic based on that concept. You iterated it. I really like that you learned from it and you changed the 3D to the 2D. So I admire your process.
Yeah, I just think it's got a really good sense of discovery from the first moment, you see the shower of the gold coins, and I think that's a really cool moment. I think you really built on it really well.
Yeah, I think you went through the first most important door, which is you actually finish something, and that's really critical. So I think that you should get huge props for that, finishing it in a really short period of time. And then I guess the other important thing I was wondering was, is it fun? And I think when you started talking about the water and the lava, I think that really would be something that... Before that, I was a bit like, okay, I got at that last level, you were like, okay, I see how you have to use it. And then when you started talking about the water and the lava, it was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like it might be quite fun.
That's pretty much everything I was going to say. Also, as well, I just like the kind of the element of troll inside of it with a pillar coming down. I wasn't expecting that myself, so if I was playing it, that would have been a scream moment.
Fantastic. Thank you, judges. Thank you, Brain Cartridge. Okay, time for us to move on to Team 2, which is Arch Creatives, and their game, Heavenly Touch. Welcome them to the stage.
Hello. So we're the Arch Creatives. I'm kind of partly behind Toby, for which I apologise. I'm Alex, this is Gabby, George and Toby. You can see our game's partly about God and partly about hands.
Oh, yeah. So basically, then we've got theme, a touch. We thought about something mystical, something like maybe touch of God. And yeah, we've got giant fingers from the sky and you can smash imps with them. And afterwards, we managed to do a literal meaning of a touch. And you can play this game on a touch screen.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big part of it, is when we heard the theme, we were like, you know, it's touch, so let's try and actually make it so it's all touchable. So you interact with the environment by using your finger, and you know, you drop the hand of God on people. Oh yeah, sorry. I can hear it really well in my ears, so that would explain why I wasn't holding the microphone close, sorry. And you know, the main thing as well is that it works really well on any device that's got a touch screen. So you've got like, you know, an iPad or an Android phone or an Intel Ultrabook TM with multi-touch display. That would be really nice. And you know, one of the things we try to do when we do stuff is try and make them personal and have a sense of humour about it. So you can see we sort of do a bit of inspiration from maybe Monty Python and sort of old, you know, the moon's sort of out of an old cinema thingy from when films were all black and white.
Also, as gameplay sounds quite fun, we decided to play with graphics a bit, and inspiration came from old film Journey to the Moon or Mighty Boosh thing. You can see our lovely pixelated moon over there. So actually I think this game could have big potential because you can move platforms like around, and in prototype it sounds quite good, I think. And if we would manage to add loads of moving platforms and levels and I don't know, improve graphics maybe, we could create an amazing game. And I think we will go further with this and create maximum potential of this game.
Certainly, I think we'd like to finish it at some point. So you can see at the moment, like, it's a bit of a prototype. None of us had done an 8-hour game jam before, and that was a bit of a shock to the system, truth be told. I'm sorry, I'm busy watching the game. That's clearly not helpful. The one thing I wanted to say, we do feel like we produce something where you can kind of, the core mechanic works. It's kind of hard to see it when you see it, I think, but when you touch it, it's kind of funny, like, and I think that's kind of important for us. And we were really struggling to tell if it was any fun, because when you spend 8 hours looking at something, you kind of can't tell anymore. And this morning on the train on the way here, I happened to bump into a friend, and his kids like borrowed my laptop and played it all the way here. So, and they wouldn't give it me back. So, I mean, that's hopefully a good sign. But there you go.
And I think so. The game jam for us, it was more about have fun, like for us. So I think we had loads of fun making this game, and I hope admiring this game was fun as well.
Yeah. So yeah, like Abby says, in summary, like we kind of just entered into it with 8 hours, hoping we'd finish something, and we did something. So that's a good thing. And you know, my friend's kids liked it, so we're all quietly stoked about that. So that's really, there we go, that's our game, Touch of God. Or Heavenly Touch, rather.
Fantastic. And what I think people can't see necessarily is the guy here who's controlling it, well, that's how he's controlling it. He's moving the pillars up and down with his finger, as well as he's dropping the hand of God, I think?
Yeah, so you control the pillars with your finger, and you also drop the hand of God on things by touching where you want it to fall. And obviously, like, if we were going to finish it, we'd add like extra stuff for you to kill and just generally. So I guess it's essentially sort of an endless runner, but the point of our way of touching it was touching the world rather than the thing. Yeah, I think that's basically. I think we're done. So thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, judges, would you like to tell us what you thought? Mike first, please.
I liked it. I actually think it's a really good example of a game with too many mechanics, weirdly. I think actually, because you've got the dragging and up and down and tapping to kill, I'd actually remove the tapping to kill. I'd have it all be about pillars. So you have a top row and bottom row, and you can move them up and down. The idea of kind of setting a path out for an infinitely running and unstoppable endless character is actually pretty cool. You could have columns with spikes on, so you can do the quick kill. I think that the idea of that tactile thing of building the path that's in front of them could actually be a really interesting mechanic. I think you might have overcomplicated or undercomplicated it by doing the tapping, but that could actually be the base of a really good endless runner. I like it.
Yeah, basically the same thing. I think there's a bit of control ambiguity, which is always sort of you could have used one mechanic to achieve a lot of the things you do. Congratulations for completing your first game jam. That is super wonderful. Super great that you participated. Thank you so much.
I really like the way you guys picked an art style, referencing like Journey to the Moon and Monty Python. That's a really cool thing to do, like especially with the restrictions of time in the game jam. And it's the kind of thing I'd like to see develop further with, like, you know, I can imagine one person controlling the character and the other person manipulating the world, and that's something I've always been interested in. I've never seen it work really well, so that'd be something to like explore with it.
Yeah, anything with a Monty Python reference gets a bonus point from me. And and I really like the concept. I think maybe a bit fewer columns and a bit more speed might really kind of like get the pulse racing a bit more. But yeah, really well done, guys.
I was playing some Lemmings on the Amiga before, and it had been like 15 years. And one thing that might have helped was if you have those other mechanics, like Lemmings, the original Lemmings has heaps of mechanics, but it introduces them very slowly. So you might be able to still have those, like Hand of God and all that, but introducing it slowly, you might still achieve the thing. But it took me a while to figure out, not seeing you on the tablet. I was kind of like, what? Didn't really get how it was fun, but I could see that you were actually having fun lining it up on the thing. So I think it would actually be, interesting to actually play it rather than watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement that I like the idea of it being faster, probably wider pillars as well. You wouldn't necessarily have to go down the bit trip runner route with the whole like moving on the beat, but I'd definitely love to see faster movement and maybe even using the pillars to fling them up and use the momentum to take them over these large gaps. I think that would be a really cool thing to put in there as well. But yeah, congrats.
Oh, can we have this microphone on again, please?
Hello?
Yeah.
You can totally do that, actually. You can throw them up in the air, but we forgot to say it because we all got nervous and Gabby went out of order and then I went out of order.
I noticed a hint.
Apologies. And the other thing, that what you say is completely fair. The original idea for the Hand of God was you would touch and then pull it down, like you were literally smashing stuff with God's finger, and then time.
Well, thank you very much, the Arch Creatives and Heavenly Touch. Okay, let's move on to our third team, who are called What Killed the Dinosaurs? No one knows. Well, hold on. And with their game, Can't Touch This.
Hello. All right, wonderful. First of all, just a quick introduction. I'm Tommy, that's Rob, that's James, that's Matt. Hello. We need a little bit of audience participation and some judge participation for this. So you might be wondering, what killed the dinosaurs? A little bit of noise. How many of you like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Louder! Okay, so if I were to ask you, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Really? Is that it? Thank you. All right. So I wanted to quickly explain why we made the game that we did. So, because we were like, touch. That it? And no disrespect to the team who came on before us, we just thought making a game that used the touch screen seemed kind of uninspired and derivative. No offense. And also, I've got a bit of an issue with touching anything or anyone, given my line of work. Now, this is our first game jam, but these two in the middle are students, and the ones on the outside, we're actually lecturers. And in my line of work, we know you shouldn't touch anybody. Because particularly when you're dealing with students, what typically happens is you lose control, you get a little bit annoyed, and then you want to open up and just lay waste to them in your evil, devil-like rage. The reality is, you just have to sort of smile, grin and bear it, and then, explain to them the extent of their failures as politely as possible. In short, touching is not something you want to do. Instead, we came up with this.
Can't touch this.
10 seconds. So why not make a game where it's really difficult to touch each other, but we need to use the touch in order to win? Straightforward, 4-player, fast-paced multiplayer, 60-second time limit. Each player's a magnet. You're running around trying to grab one of 3 types of orbs. Green one's worth 1 point, blue for 2, red for 5. However, given you're both magnets, you repel one another. And ultimately, the worst part is the green zones that appear in the middle of in the bottom of that map there, they actually demagnetize you. You lose your ability to control yourself, but other players can move you around. So, enough talk. Let's get on with this. Oh no, that's Windows 8. Oh wait.
Can't touch this.
Still waiting. There we go. Would the judges like to play? We have 4 pads. Why is that still coming up at the presentation? That's not good. Hang on. Left stick only to control yourself. Move around as fast as you can. 60 seconds. Go! Judges, you are player 2 and player 4. So what's happening is that as each player gets really close to one another, their magnetic forces begin to knock each other back. And you're seeing there, player 4 and player 1 are essentially knocking each other around. Player 2, I think, just got hit in the dead zone and as a result can't move. Who was player 2? Was that you, Mike? Come on. Now what's happening is that the actual score power-ups keep respawning every couple of seconds. However, there's also a probability that they move to another spawn point on the map, so you can all be rushing towards one, and then it decides to move somewhere else. Come on, time's running out. Who's winning? Player 3, 21 points. Ah, so close. And then map 2, more of the same. We actually got pretty far with it. We had this version working. Sadly, we actually built a power-up system which we never got to implement in the final hour. We'd been looking at things such as having phasers where you could run through each other and then just ignore them. But again, all these power-ups would only activate if you touched one another or you touched something. It was a bit of a pain. It was rather disappointing because we were so close and James had worked really hard on it. But we think that some of at least the basic mechanics are there. You've got some of the magnetic behaviour and you can throw each other around. They seem quite enthralled. I don't know about you. And also, we forgot to put the song in the actual game. We put it in the presentation, we forgot to put it in the game. Aye. There's so much to do and you've only got like 8 hours to do it. I mean, come on!
Okay, we've got time for about one more game. Maybe swap the judges around. Are there 2 maps for every...
We've got, we can play this level one more time. It will just loop on the last level
Okay.
there. We never finished rigging the 3rd level properly. Can I just, I'm just going to take a seat. Just take a seat, you know?
Player 2's doing shit.
Who is player 2? Is that Dean Hall?
It's broken.
What's happened to player 2? Player 2's had enough. Oh no, player 2's back! Hey!
Go player 2.
No, player 1's run away with it. 36.
Okay, guys, I think that's all we got time for on that. So thank you, Can't Touch This, and what killed the dinosaurs. We'll just get our judges sat back down again. They're exhausted after that. Okay,
Wow.
Let's start with Mike. Mike, what did you make of that?
I liked it. I think, well, if it's dodgems, and it is kind of dodgems, I think that punishing me for attacking other people, while interesting, actually kind of takes away my instinct is to ram into everyone else's. And I get what you're going for, but I think that might be something to tweak.
Thanks for letting us play a game. That's great. They're video games. What? Oh, sorry. Mike told me to stop being nice. Okay. So, I like the basic mechanic. I think it was problematic that two of the judges were trying to figure out whether they were actually controlling something. That's sort of a problem, especially 30 seconds in. I like the floatiness. I kind of liked it and I kind of didn't. I mean, I know what you were going for. I feel that it should either be more pronounced or not as pronounced as it was. Sort of felt like it could have used a few playtesting rounds where people could just toy around and tweak the values a bit. But besides that, I had good fun. Oh, smart to go for a multiplayer game. You don't have to code AI.
Their presentation confused the hell out of me. But I think there's actually quite a solid game in there somewhere. It's obviously quite shoddy at the moment and difficult to control. I'm going to give you minus points because I got handed a pad that wasn't connected. But yeah, I think give a pause between the next game starts and players will get used to it, and yeah, you'll have something.
I think it's a smart idea with the good presentation. Like I didn't get a chance to go hands-on with that, unfortunately. But yeah, I was quite impressed with what I saw.
Originally, I thought it may have been way too complicated, but then when, like there was a lot of rules and this you could do and that. But actually, I think that it kind of worked with it. The one thing I did think, though, when I played it, I couldn't really figure out sort of what I was trying to do. So it felt like because the items were spawning in random places, there was really nothing I could do to kind of win. If an item spawned on the other side of the map, there was no way I was going to get it there before the other player. I'm not really sure how he'd solve that, but I liked kind of that I could feel like I could get quite aggressive with it. And when you're looking at a competitive type multiplayer game, that's what you want to do. You want to get in and get aggressive. But at the same time, I kind of liked how you weren't allowed to just ram people. I did anyway, but yeah. So I just think it was for me the bit to improve on would have been the way the little items spawned. Some way that would encourage me to take over territory or I don't know, waste someone or something.
Yeah, you mentioned that obviously you didn't get a chance to put all the power-ups in, but I think the whole idea, if something does spawn on the other end, maybe having some kind of like Bomberman style, because it is, a pretty simple set of squares, something like you can do a straight line, it'll freeze all the enemies in that path, something like that would work really well. Quick question about the green thing at the bottom, when you go into it, does that make you stationary for the rest of the game, or just briefly? Oh, okay, cool. That's right, I saw the one in the top right corner. I wasn't sure if he got hit, like somewhere in, and he'd just been dragged up there and left. Maybe if that was like a temporary window where you can't move, that again would just be a very tiny thing that would help sort of swing the advantage the other way.
All right, great. Well, thank you, What Killed the Dinosaurs, with your game Can't Touch This. Okay, so we're halfway through the Creative Assembly Game Jam now. Let's get XMPT Games up with their game Personal Space Invade.
Hello everybody, we are XMPT Games and we're going to show you a live demo of our game. We're going to get the judges to play it. Oh, it's been done, but we're going to do it. Before we get to that though, you're going to have to sit through this brief introductory lecture. This is Hugging 101. Now scientists currently believe one main theorem of hugging, which is that you need two parties to make a good hug. There's the hug giver and the hug receiver. When those two entities come together, everybody gets what they want, everybody's happy, and if you're lucky, dinosauric hug combos can ensue. However, things can go wrong. If you get two hug receivers together, nobody will initiate anything, nobody gets what they want, nobody is happy. And even worse, two hug givers, people who love giving hugs, but not necessarily receiving them. If they come together, well, they can get pretty angry. Now imagine if four such people who love giving but hate receiving hugs were pitted against each other in four-player single-screen arena combat. Bear that in mind as I hand over to Alex Kelly to tell you what our game is about.
Thank you very much, Ed. So when we got given the theme of touch, we thought, well, touch. We all hugged each other because, we're just that kind of people. And then we thought about, who actually really enjoys aggressively hugging people. So your granny is a perfect example. You don't get away from seeing your granny without getting hugged. Your teddy's the same. I mean, you might think he's passive, but look, he's like that. He wants to hug you. Smelly monsters, less well known, but actually they're really angry because they never get to give anyone any hugs because they're so smelly. And aliens. What aliens, you ask? Face huggers. Thank you. So how would these people meet? Obviously, a hugging convention. And without further ado, here's our demo. Okay, so we'll play a quick demonstration to show you the mechanics, and then we'll get the judges to have a go. So, personal space invaders. Just a quick explanation of the controls. So, left stick to move, left shoulder button charges your hug up in a radius around you, and then right shoulder button will execute the hug on all the people around you. So, let's go. Okay, so as you can see, when you're not charging your hug up, you're quite quick, but as soon as you start charging that hug up, you slow down. So it makes it like there's some tactics involved. To get away without giving a combo, it might be better to just stop charging your hug and run away. So you can get a single person in your hug radius, that's good, but if you get two people, that's a combo, and as you can see, there's even better combos available.
So I've only got 1 point, so now playing one-handed probably isn't going to help me. The way the scoring system works, hug a single person and you get 1 point. Hug two people and you get 5 points for the second person. If you manage to get a third person, that's a dinosauric hug combo, and that will earn you a total of 18 points. So it's higher risk to go for the high combos because it gets you in the thick of it, but with a big reward. And the winner is the person with the highest score at the end of the game. So we've probably got time for one more game.
Yeah,
so have we got 4 judges that would like to have a go?
The other judges can just hug in real life.
I think you'll be the teddy bear.
Oh, they are? Fantastic.
We're just going to stand here for a few minutes.
It's like it's real love.
If you just wiggle the left stick at the beginning, you'll work out which one you are. So it's left bumper to start charging it up, and once it hits its maximum radius, it'll actually then start going back in.
This is lovely.
This is so great. I love this game.
This is what a dinosauric hug combo looks like in real life.
We need one more person, don't we?
No, 3's good.
Here's another,
Actually,
here's
I guess
a
it's
4.
4, isn't it? There we go.
Now we broke the game.
That's what I've been missing.
That is a live dinosauric hug combo.
I can't see the game anymore.
No, I can't.
That's right, that's right.
You're all too tall.
Wow. This is, yeah. Oh.
We've stopped imagine like a teacher.
So currently your granny is running away with it. Usually the teddy tends to do quite well. We suspect he's overpowered, even though all the characters are identical.
I think this is the longest hug I've ever had.
Yeah, same here, yeah.
6 more seconds.
I've been to a few anime conventions, never this long.
Oh, and a dinosauric hug right in the last minutes takes it for the alien.
Fantastic. That's all we got time for, but thank you very much, XMPT Games. Let's hear what the judges thought.
Okay, 1, best hug I've ever had. 2, I absolutely loved this through and through. I was actually really pleasantly surprised that you had the character art on the title screen and for the avatars in each of the corners, but the fact that you went sort of the pixel art route for the in-game gave a nice difference to the circle as well. And one thing that I was worried about was that the circle, the radius for the hug would be infinitely growing, but I did notice one person managed to get to go right the way to the top and then it shrinks back down again, so you've really got a brief window of opportunity to really, go for the dinosaur one. So yeah, congrats, really into that.
I think it was simple, was well executed, and you linked everything together. So the art style went together, you had a tutorial screen at the start, and it was fun to play. So yeah, there's not really much else to say beyond that.
I actually go to a lot of hug conventions dressed as a teddy bear, and I can say that's a very accurate simulation of what it's like to really be there. And I love the art style, and I had fun. And it was, seriously, well done, guys.
So I'd written down notes here about using the combo multiplier and the charge at the expense of movement being really nice things, but actually, yeah, to just back everyone up, it is really, really good fun to play, but I do have to put you in touch with our legal team at 20th Century Fox, I'm afraid, so...
So even though I spend most of my time hugging people here on the stage, what I saw of the game looks really, really interesting. I mean, I do sort of, since I haven't played it, like my biggest question mark would be with the balance, like if that actually does work out, if there isn't a solvable in what is the best strategy. But besides that, it seemed like good fun.
Asymmetrical physical assault game. I love it. I think there'll be some interesting blog posts. My only real issue is it was mechanical. I think it's solvable, as Rami said. That's the biggest challenge you have. There is the penalty of movement speed, but when we were playing it, everyone was basically holding down that button, so it wasn't really a penalty because it was applied to everyone. There has to be some way of basically making me play well or badly. It didn't feel like there was a skill choice there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for a very quick pick up and play game. We all had fun, but some kind of penalty for making the wrong choice, basically. Like, you can't re-hug again if you activate after you've activated your hug, so you have to use it at the right moment, stuff like that.
Fantastic. Sorry, yes, you have one more. Do you want to borrow the microphone there?
We're going to put the game up for free on our website. It'll take us a few days to get it up there, but if you want to play it, we'll make it available for everyone to get their hands on.
What's the website?
xmptgames.co.uk, or follow us on Twitter @xmptgames to be notified of its release.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, XMPT Games. That was good. That was very nice. So, Team 5 in the Creative Assembly Game Jam, Sock Thuggery with their game Touch Evolution. I feel all warm and fuzzy inside after that hug. So it was a good hug. It was nice. It wasn't like a hug that you want to get away from. It was it was good, yeah. Yeah, it was soothing. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sure you are aware, evolutionary theory is the cornerstone of biology, the study of life. And it touches all the scientific disciplines. In the 21st century, complex AI modelling has enabled us to manipulate environments so that we can study the full effects of the process of evolution. At this point, anyone who's particularly into evolutionary science should probably leave.
Hard science. That's what game jams have been missing. We've all been thinking it, perhaps not consciously, or yet, or ever. Our aim is to bring the touch of hard science into the gaming sphere, to broaden and enlighten, to shine a light on things and stuff. Life's goals are generally pretty simple. Food and finding a mate. These very drives are the core basis of our simulation of life. When they are hungry, they will eat anything within sight. When they are horny, they'll do that other thing. Touch is the key. Touch to eat, touch to mate. When they're full, they look for a mate that shares similar characteristics in metabolism, movement, and sight. Their offspring will mutate based on an average of their parents' various subsystem stats, how quickly they can turn stored energy into immediate energy, how fast they can move and turn, how far they can see, how many, or even if they have any eyes at all. Let's take a look. At this point, I can no longer see my presentation. As you can see here, I'll zoom in a bit. Some of them have eyes, some of them have eyes in very strange places. Touching bonds are formed and broken. Strange mutations happen. That's better, that's fine. There is no soundtrack, as we firmly believe that science doesn't need a soundtrack. We can experiment with them by touching them and dragging them around. If you're not a scientist yourself, you can no doubt find a local one to do it for you. Nature is indeed red in tooth and claw. You can see it here in the raw ferocity of their interaction. It's hard to watch, I know. Keep your resolve. This is for science. You've seen the kids with wonky eyes that emerge during this, the touching bonds that form and are broken. This is the very touch of life. In closing, we appear to have actually created an idiot and early death simulator filled with critical flaws and bugs. Evolution had millions of years. We had 2 people and 8 hours. What this adds to science, I'll leave for future generations to decide. Over 150 years ago, Darwin's theory provided intense debate between church and science over the origins of mankind. We're hoping to provoke a debate of similar magnitude about whether this even counts as a game. We have been Sock Thuggery. We're exhibiting our first indie game, Mighty Tactical Shooter, over in the Left Field collection. If you wish to chat with us afterwards, we'll be investigating the science of fermentation thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mike, would you like to tell us what you thought of Touch Evolution?
I think it's great that today, on a Sunday, which I guess isn't relevant, we have managed to prove evolution. I think that's a big deal. I think we should be proud of ourselves, and more importantly, we've done it with pixel art, which works for me. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy with what's happened here and what we've all been part of.
This is one of those examples where you can't really separate the game itself from the context in which it was provided, and I have to applaud you for the presentation. That added a lot to this game. And also, as a game designer, I think you have the responsibility to once in your life make something based on the game of life. That isn't quite the game of life, but some sort of weird bastardization of the game of life. And you 100% delivered on all things that I expected from this. So, thank you.
I'm still not quite sure what it is, but it does look entertaining. It looks like the sort of thing I will download and scratch my head and play for a couple of hours and go, yeah, that was pretty interesting. So, you were going to reply then?
I was going to answer that. Well, the main thing is they kind of get on and do their own thing and bump into each other and decide if they're similar enough, then they mate. And if they're not similar enough, one of them usually eats the other one, and occasionally they don't. And then they produce babies that mutate, so they get eyes on their bums for some reason. But the main thing is you can tamper with it, so you can grab hold of them and choose them and force them to interact and touch each other and to encourage, and so you can kind of tinker with evolution.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying. Approved.
Yeah, it's like it seems a bit broken, and I don't really understand, although I understand a bit more now. But I think the key thing is it's clearly actually a lot better than the actual game Spore. So.
Oh no, she didn't.
And on that note.
Oh, sick burn there. Right. How do you follow that? For the whole presentation, I really didn't know what was going on. I think the last 30 seconds there, I think that really should have been your presentation when you explained like what was actually happening. Because when I started looking at it, I could tell that there was actually something going on, but I had no idea what it was. And I just think maybe you might have spent a little bit long on the presentation. It's better to see the game.
We spent about 20 minutes on the presentation.
Right, but I mean more talking about the game rather than talking about the context. Like, the context is great, but when I actually see what's happening, and I know how difficult it is to do this, because I did a little project like this once, it's really great hearing like you describe the game and talk about what's actually happening, because that to me is the really interesting part of it.
The only thing that I think is missing, kind of like as it is right now, you were saying like sometimes they eat them, sometimes they breed new ones. It'd be nice just somewhere on the screen just to have a counter of how many are currently on there, because one, it's impossible to count. So it'd be nice if you could sit there and see how many there are, and obviously you can see what decisions you make actually influence your score to go up or down. But yeah, other than that, I was equally confused for the most part.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you, Sock Thuggery, for our lesson in evolution with Touch Evolution. Okay, now we have the final team, a team of students. They are cut close, and they've got their game, Magic Quest. I can see a wizard already, I'm interested.
Oh, hi everyone. My name's Kieran and we're a group of students from college at Dudley.
Sorry, just before you go, could you lift the microphone up closer?
Yeah, sorry. My name's Kieran, this is Kata and Jade, and they were both the art designers of this game, and me and Dan worked on the engine. We used Game Maker, so we were limited to what we could do, but it was the most simplest game engine we had for the time, and that we were strong enough to use. So the keyword was touch. Touch is a sense produced from activation of neural receptors that receive and send information to the brain. We wanted to use this idea of receptors telling the player to do something, but in a combat style.
Magic Quest is about the little character here called Beardus, if I can remember his name actually, Bulbous, because he bounces quite a lot, and it's like a fantasy adventure game. So he has to protect his castle from enemies who are coming to destroy the castle, and in order to do that he needs to use element spells.
Using his elemental powers is the key to defeating enemies. However, it cannot be done without the Wizard's Scarf. The Wizard's Scarf touches the enemies and identifies the player which elemental ability to use using icons. Once the ability is pressed, it must be correct at the correct time with the corresponding icon to defeat the enemy. Okay, so let's try and play this game. Can you turn the sound up? Can you turn the sound up? Okay, so we've got the wizard on the left, and as you can see, our enemies are scrolling from the right. When they pass the wizard's scarf, an icon appears, and the corresponding element must be pressed. As the game progresses, the game gets harder, making the enemies spawn quicker, and it changes the rotation, so you're unsure what could come next. Our game was basically inspired on a mixed audience, so we could do an aim at different people, hence the cartoony style and the happy, fun and cute appearance. From the game you can see so far, it has slowly started to increase in speed, and the speed is, and the enemies, and as the enemies stop, upon death the game restarts and you must complete the level again. The more enemies you kill, the more points you gain, but unfortunately with the time limit we couldn't implement the score at this moment in time. When hitting an enemy with the wrong spell, it will cause the game to slow down and you will lose points. If the enemy hits the wizard is dead and you restart from the game. That has been our game, Wizard's Quest, the Wizard's Touch.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Okay, so starting with Martin this time, what did you think?
You know what, I was really pleasantly surprised. When I saw the title screen, I assumed it was going to be some kind of side-scroller, throw a few spells out, but yeah, I really, really like the idea of that, actually. I think that would work great on a tablet, a phone, even on a desktop as well. And I also really like the idea that if you hit them with the wrong spell, that's not just the case of they're going to get to you and you're done. I like that you slow the game down and you can still take them out regardless. But yeah, I could definitely see myself playing something like that on a journey. So yeah, congrats.
So how did you select the spells? Did you push like a button on your controller?
Yeah, the controls are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're showed at the start of the game, but they'll only be showed at the start of the game. So once the game has started, it's up to you to memorise and press them in the correct order.
Does it change them round or?
No, just the spell that's needed is pressed. The buttons are the same.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said to the other teams, like finishing the concept is huge. Like being able to do that in such a short space of time.
Yeah, well, it was
to put something
actually
together.
our first time as a team and at a game of Jam, so it was a bit of a struggle. It was very stressful, but a really fun experience for us all. So.
Yeah, because you get pulled in so many ways when you come up with a concept and you try and finish it. So yeah, and I think very, very good work in putting that together and actually getting something that actually achieved the aim you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like wizards, but I never realised that making them a bit bouncy could make them even better. So that was pretty good. One thing I would say is that having the quite a small area that you're looking at to work out which spell you need, you kind of like paying attention to something that isn't necessarily the wizard and the cool art that you've created. But yeah, but well done, guys. It's clearly a lot of good work you put in.
You get bonus points from me for using Game Maker. It's an awesome piece of kit, and I'm glad to see you using it well. And also for the music. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I think if you could time it with the bouncing of the wizard, you'd have a hit.
So I also really appreciate that you used Game Maker, because we use Game Maker for all of our games. That's why I less appreciated that you said that it was a simple piece of kit. But never blame your tools for the things you make. For the animation, smaller is often better. The bounciness was funny, but for effects usually use small stuff. You used a really good game concept. I mean that was solid. It was a good game. Also, just if you use a word that doesn't exist in your language, please Google what it means in other languages, because I happen to be Dutch, and in Dutch this word is not quite appropriate to say on a stage.
Yeah, it's worth a Google. No. Or not. Don't Google that word. Don't pull your smartphone out of your pocket and Google it. No, I actually really like that. I think, yeah, the idea of, because it's basically a rhythm action game. It's almost Guitar Hero, which I like. I like the thing. I think communication's one problem. So as someone said, the small icon. If it's a flame, make it like a Bunsen burner. When you move different elements through Bunsen burner, flame changes color. You can do something really cool with that, and it's just a palette swap, so it's easy and cheap. And actually, the slowdown, I'd flip it because actually, like if you look at a lot of these games, you want to build up panic when things start to go wrong. So having it start slow, but if you mess up, it starts going faster, could actually be really cool and kind of get. I actually think that's a concept worth exploring and developing, because there's actually a really nice, quick little fun waiting for a bus game in that, I think.
Great, thank you very much. Cut close.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Don't say cut close.
Don't say cut.
Don't say
spell with a K. Google it.
Don't
Google it.
Yeah, don't everyone Google it now.
Don't everyone Google it right now.
So we've had all 6 teams now have come and shown us their brilliant games. Well done again, amazing. I can't believe you created those in a day. But we're going to pick a winner. Well, I say we. Yeah, let's applaud them first. Seriously, well done. It's very impressive. So our judges are going to deliberate now. They're going to talk amongst themselves about what they think should win. And in the meantime, I was going to get everyone to come on stage, but our real estate on stage is a bit limited. So I would like the teams, if we can get their house lights up, I'd like the teams to stand up where they are, because I think you're all in one kind of block here at the front. And yeah, if you stay there, and I want to get some cheering going for the teams, okay? We've clapped them, but I want to go through, because I want to gauge your appreciation of their game. So it's that classic, go mental if you love it type thing. So let's start with Team 1, which was Brain Cartridge, which was Midas, the team, the game where you're a ghost and you touch things, it turns to gold. Let's hear your appreciation. If you loved it, go bananas. Very good. Okay, moving on to Team 2, Arch Creatives, which was Heavenly Touch. So the platform's moving and the God Hand. Oh, hold on, gets copyrighted. No, the God Hand coming down and touching them. Let's hear your appreciation of that. What really did kill the dinosaurs? No, that's Team 3 with their game, Can't Touch This. So the magnet game where you get repelled and then you can turn people off effectively. Wait, that's the wrong phrase. But let's hear your appreciation of that. Okay, and building into XMPT games with Personal Space Invade, so the hugging simulator. Let's hear your appreciation of that. Wow, okay. Some big cheers there. Let's go over to Darwin, to Sock Thuggery and Touch Evolution. Let's hear what you thought of that. And the final team, something close. I can't say the first word, with their game Magic Quest. Let's hear your appreciation. Okay, now, as if I'm Dermot O'Leary, I'm just going to see how our judges are doing. Judges, they need just a couple more minutes. So the prizes that the team who wins will be getting, they'll be winning Intel Snazzy Ultrabooks, which is what the theme was around, so the touch screen. There's a beautiful person over here, Craig from Creative Assembly, the company sponsoring and organising this whole competition. Okay. Okay. The judges have talked to me in my earpiece. Wait. So, I'm back on, fantastic. It's sort of sticking out now, I don't feel like Madonna. Okay, so, drum roll. We can't do a drum roll. Has anyone got a snare drum? Yeah, let's do that, a drum roll. So the winner, everyone's winners, I should preface this with, Rami was very clear, everyone's winners, but the winner of the Creative Assembly 2014 Game Jam at Rezzed is XMPT Games with Personal Space Invade Hugging Super Simulator. Come up onto the stage, guys. It's a hug. It's a mass hug. Can we get all the other entrants into a massive bundle hug in the middle as well, please? This is going to be the biggest hug I think I've ever seen. And the judges as well. Let's try and get everyone in here. Whoa, fantastic! Okay, I'm coming in. Make some room. I'm in. Almost pushed everyone over. Okay, and so for the winners, XMPT Games, you guys have won. The guys from Creative Assembly, I'm sure will want to come up and present you with your prizes now. So we have the lovely Craig and Will here from Creative Assembly. So well done again, guys. Awesome stuff.
So there's 6 of us as well. Have you got... Can we... No? Okay.
It's really hard work presenting as well.
It really is tiring, Mike.
Stop trying to get stuff.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for coming to EGX Rezzed as well. I hope you're having a good time. Up next, after this, is Frozen End Zone. Please come and see that. This session has run a bit late, so it's probably going to take a bit longer getting round to that. A massive thank you to our judges. So Martin, Dean, the Velvet Owl, Gary, Rami, and Mike. Thank you very much. Thanks again to everyone who entered. Seriously, a lot of hard work. I could never do that, which is why I write about games, because it's easier. It's a cop-out. So thank you again. Massive cheer, and thank you guys. And that's it from us. I think I'm still turned on, yeah.
I'm falling to pieces, but I need this, yeah, I need this. You're my fault, my weakness. When did you turn so cold? You cut me down to the bone. Now you're dancing all over my soul. I'm falling to pieces, to pieces, to pieces. But I still stay, 'cause you're the only thing I know. So won't you take away
Good evening. Welcome to the final session of the final day of EGX Rezzed. Thank you all for coming along. I hope you've had a really good show. I've certainly had an awesome time. We're going to end with a bang with a look at Frozen End Zone. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Ian and Paul.
Hello, thank you very much. We are Mode 7 Games. We're probably best known for a simultaneous turn-based strategy title called Frozen Synapse that we released in 2011. But we're currently working on sort of not a sequel, but a kind of follow-up to that, which is called Frozen End Zone. And just in case you haven't seen it, I'm now going to play you a little bit of a trailer and then talk some more after that.
I guess that's...
You don't need to hear me talking on the trailer and in real life. That's far too much me for one talk. So this is Frozen End Zone. It's a simultaneous turn-based game again, which means that you make your plan, your opponent makes their plan, and you watch the outcomes play out together. Unlike Frozen Synapse, when the outcome happens in this game, you get a fully 3D, beautifully rendered version of what happened. And this game is very much about space and positioning. You have to get your units into positions that you think will block off paths for your opponent. At the same time, they're trying to get the ball all the way into that end zone for a score. And there's various other zones on the pitch as well that give you points. You can see the blocks on the pitch here. They're randomly generated terrain, so they basically create a space in which you can work out your plans. The tall blocks, you can't pass the ball over them, and the low blocks, you can't run past them. One of the things we just added to the game is the ability to customize your team and characters. So here you can see just setting a few different stats. You can set things like speed, the radius in which you can intercept the ball. And here's our custom pitch editor that will just enable you to make any pitch you like. It's a dual single-player and multiplayer game, so we've got all the kind of usual multiplayer stuff you expect, like leads and ladders and chat and so on. Working on this game has been really interesting for us because we went from a very small team with virtually no art budget to being able to work with some really fantastic artists who have worked previously on AAA games. Richard Whitelock, our art director, and Martin Binfield, our lead animator. And as you can see there from the wonderful plug, the game is in early access right now. It's been on there for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's just fantastic to be able to get the game out to a wider audience and start seeing what kind of feedback we're getting. We're tweaking the game a lot at the moment. We're making some quite big changes. And Ian, in a minute, is going to be showing you some stuff in-game, and you'll be able to see some of those changes. So the main thrust of our talk today, we thought it would be interesting to focus on one particular element of Frozen End Zone, which is the single-player AI. Now, in a game like this, you have very few characters per side, and the nature of the game is that one wrong move can really screw you over for the entire rest of your match. So designing AI for something like that is particularly challenging. So we thought it'd be cool to show you some of the process behind that and have this man here, who is the lead designer and lead programmer, kind of talk you through some elements of it. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say about the game in general while we look at a bit of a match, or if you want to go straight into talking about AI.
I guess I'll go straight in. Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for coming to the final talk, and we're really glad that anyone is here at all. And it's really nice that we have an audience. So I'm just going to bring you in game and talk a bit about what we've been doing.
Now, I just would like to point out at this point that I am non-technical and Ian is very technical. So most of what he says, like some of you here, I probably won't understand. So I'm going to be asking questions and trying to figure out just what the hell is going on along with you. So think of me as like your guide to the world of Ian Harding.
Lucky you. Okay, so one of the unique challenges with making AI for a game like Frozen Synapse or Frozen Endzone is that when we make games, we start by creating a really competitive multiplayer game. There's no artificial intelligence for the first 18 months or so of development of these games because I'm just head down playing against other people trying to make the game as, you know, as perfect as it can be for a one-on-one thing. The whole idea is that we can make a great multiplayer game and then that's a brilliant platform to make a great single-player game. So the artificial intelligence was hard enough even for Frozen Synapse because in these games there are really obviously good and bad things to do, and unlike an RTS where there are hundreds and hundreds of units, you've only generally got 3, 4 or 5 units to play with. So if the AI does something really stupid, it's really obvious. It's massively important to us that our AI is solid. You have to feel that you are playing against a human in a lot of different ways. Otherwise, the whole game doesn't work. The game was designed to play against humans. The AI needs to be as good as that at that. So what we've got right here is we have a classic turn 2 position in Frozen Endzone. The player is the blue team. Here are his units. Everyone can see the cursor, can't they? Because I'm going to be using the cursor. Yes, you can. That's good. And the bad guys are in red. This guy has the ball. And very simply, he needs to get the ball from where he is to the end zone here. So, for instance, he could run it like that. There's pause there because that would be where the turn would break and allow you to replan. Or he can throw the ball to someone. So really, the whole core of Frozen Endzone is what you've just seen. It's about getting the ball from the starting location to the end zone, and the defenders have to stop you. From a very simple moveset, i.e. just being able to run, just being able to stop, and just being able to throw the ball, we've created what I believe to be a really nice, complicated, really deep game that's also quite easy to get into. So, when it came to making artificial intelligence for Frozen Endzone, I started off by thinking about how to mathematically analyze the pitch. The AI needs to understand the pitch, and maybe by using some maths we can work out that, you know, this area here might be a good place for this guy to block. If he goes there, then no one could get through there, and he's cut off a really large number of routes. But as I started investigating that, I found that even using some quite sort of clever algorithms, it was going to happen nowhere near fast enough. There's a huge possibility space here with 10 different agents acting over a few different seconds of time. So I had to go back to Frozen Synapse and further than that, back to what is common in artificial intelligence for bridge games and have a much more combative element. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to show you how this doesn't work. Excellent. Hold on. Are we getting peaky through here? Dude, can you talk for a second while I desperately try to make this work?
That's okay. So, like I said, one of the main reasons that we decided to go from something like Frozen Synapse to this is that when we started off making games, or rather when Ian started off making games when we were younger, we really liked those kind of classic PC titles where you had a core idea, and here the core idea is this kind of ridiculous futuristic sport played by robots. But what the developers did then was that they absolutely took that idea and then fleshed it out in the most comprehensive way possible. So they'd have single player and multiplayer. They'd have all the different customization options. They'd have all the different elements of that. Things like being able to name your team, being able to pick your team colors and so on. And I think that still you see with a lot of indie games, they kind of focus around the smaller, kind of higher concept, and they try to make everything about that. But what we wanted to do was just give you loads and loads of features. And that's one of the many reasons why we're incredibly slow to develop any games at all. It really takes us quite a long time. Frozen Synapse took 4 years. I think this one will be coming up to 3 years, and we're going to try and get it out by the end of this year as we see how things go. But a lot of the genesis of this game actually came about through Ian thinking about some of the things that didn't work with Frozen Synapse. that game, I don't know if any of you... Has anyone played Frozen Synapse here? That's a really startlingly large percentage of you. Thank you very much. That's awesome. One of the things about that game, as you well know, is that it's quite an anal game. It's very much about not necessarily in every sense of the word. It's about pinpoint precision. That actually makes it sound worse when I think about it. It's about very specifically predicting where your opponent's going to be and inserting your units forcibly into that space. And what we wanted to do in this game was create something that isn't so particularly defined around knowing the exact pixel. It's a bit more about generally trying to understand the shape of your opponent's plan. So, for example, if you get in a situation where you're throwing the ball deliberately to your opponents, you can actually snooker them quite well in this game by spreading your units out to block off all the potential passing vectors from where you threw the ball. So you still have that nice kind of one turn ahead thinking thing, but without the sort of, if my shotgunner comes out behind this window at 0.01 of a second later, then I'm going to lose. So, Ian, how are you getting on with your ninja
It's still not going great, but you're doing a good job.
Well, that's nice. We can always talk about something else.
Yeah, I'll give you one more second to try and make this work.
All right.
This definitely worked when I left the house. I can promise you that.
I guess we can find, if anyone has any questions or anything about Frozen Synapse or Frozen Endzone, we could do that now.
That would be a good time
while
to do
Ian's
that.
faffing around. And then at the end, we could kind of return back to this. So there is a man, and he is approaching the microphone. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions at all about anything about game development, about our games in particular, then please feel free to now approach the microphone. Yes, one person.
What do you need? I'm really loud. What do you need in a core team? Because I know you said there's only like 3.5 of you to make the last one.
Yeah.
So, what roles were they, and how important was it, and what was nice about being in a small team?
Thank you. That's a great question that I can ramble on at great length in order to
That is
cover.
actually a perfect question.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
So basically, I think when you're developing a game, you absolutely need someone who has the design vision, obviously, but I think perhaps more importantly than that, you need someone who has the coding ability to execute that design. Now, in most indie teams, that person is the same person. I mean, I know of a few where there's a distinct designer and, either one coder or a group of coders, but you absolutely need to have that kind of coding muscle there. Code is also the hardest thing to outsource.
And the most expensive.
And the most expensive from design. So once you get to that position, you can outsource, any of your art that you want to, and that's sort of easier to plug in than anything else. I mean, when we started off, it was really Ian who did all the design and coding, me who kind of filled in the gaps. When I did art direction, I would be the person finding the, freelance artists to work with, giving them direction, and Robin, who is a level designer and tester. And he would be the person that worked on a lot of the sort of low-level detail stuff for everything. Bit unusual to have someone like that in an indie team. And then we work with like a bunch of other freelance artists. In terms of what's nice about it, I mean, I think it's just from like a project management perspective. Now we have 7 people. That's a lot of my time that's spent like running around and Ian's time as well to try and, fill in those gaps. So with 3 people, you're pretty much always on the same page of like what you're working on and all that kind of thing. Whereas with 7, it's a bit amorphous. I'm not nostalgic for the like 3-person days, are you?
No, I mean all the really, really annoying things like producing builds, sort of rapidly fixing bugs in the server at 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff. I'm really glad I don't have to do that anymore. In fact, the person who has to do that is James, sitting right there.
There is another Mode Serverite here. There's James.
You have no idea how many times I'm drunk because James exists, so that's great. We have now fixed this problem.
Well done. That's excellent.
Which
we can have a look at some artificial intelligence.
So Paul's actually here to tell me if I'm being boring. So I'm just going to ramble on even more than usual.
At the moment, it's kind of borderline, so you can.
That's good. He's going to take off his clothes if it gets a bit boring, aren't you? Right. Good. So this is how the AI works. The first team, the team with the ball, the AI produces a plan for the guy to get to the end zone. Literally any plan. It does not matter what it is. As you can see here, the first one that's come up is just the guy running down, pretty much like the example I showed you. All that is required is that the guy gets the ball to the end zone. And the next step is that the defense has to find a way to stop him. Again, it really doesn't matter what he does. The whole beauty of this algorithm is that it does not require at this stage the AI to ever do the best thing, just that it does something that works. It's found that for whatever reason, this is the defense that it's chosen. He's going to run down there and he will eventually tackle the guy. Now, what happens is, this is then done many, many, many times. What happens, I'm just going to skip through this for a second, so we can get a nice block. Right, so I'm just going to run through this a little bit of time. So what it's doing is, it's creating lots and lots of different plans for the ball carrier to get in the end zone. And the defense is starting to build up a range of plans that it can see, and it's trying to work out how to defeat loads and loads at once. I'm just going to go through a bunch of steps and then show you what we've come up with. So we've gone through a load of different offensive plans, and the defensive guys have come up with 3 different things that they would like to do. That's one guy there. So the first guy is going down here. Now he has calculated that will defeat all of these different offensive plans. So where this starts to become coherent and starts to work is that any single defense was fine of any offensive plan to start with. But as you start getting a huge number of offensive plans together, then the best plans start to emerge. The more and more offensive plans you have, even if they're largely similar, the better the defense will be at choosing the right thing to do. And now I'm going to try and do a full run and show, which may take a couple of minutes, and show the eventual result. Frozen Synapse does something very similar, although slightly more sort of horizontal than this. It says, how would I beat this guy if he did nothing? And then the opposition says, if he's going to do that, how would I beat him? And then the first team goes back. A big back and forth of trying to beat each other's plans until you have something which is sort of so well iterated that it looks to a human like a very good plan. And this is another version of that, basically. It's a way of reducing the mathematical space on the field to things that the computer might actually do and a player might actually do. This is the long loading times we've been talking about.
I was actually just wondering, like, with the plan you showed, there's actually quite sane. Like, that is a plausible plan that someone might do. Does it, like, filter out weird stuff?
It filters out, it tries to only choose plans which would be at all legitimate. So, so going back on yourself, that kind of thing is not going to work. So this has happened now.
Because I've certainly, it feels like the AI kind of encourages you to play oddly sometimes, which I guess is good because you're like forced to be more creative. Like sort of standard play against the AI is actually weaker in some ways, I think.
Fair enough. I think that's probably fair. So that has run sort of several thousand times and has come up with what I hope to be a total coverage of every possible offensive plan. Now, they can't cover everything with one defense because then the game would be solved. But with these 4 different plans, supposedly, every single, and the last plan here only has the guy on the very far left doing anything. Supposedly, if I was able to do all 4 of these plans on defense, I would cover absolutely everything. And once you've done that, the rest is relatively simple. So you've got a total coverage of the offensive stuff, and then we can choose... Don't crash. Okay, so the actual final result is that the defense wants to do this. This is what has been calculated will cover by far the most things, and that's nicely quite sensible. This guy going down here has a really nice coverage of here. As you can probably just tell, it's done a nice partitioning of the field, and what's really good is this guy up here has done something really aggressive, covering any passing lanes around here. So we're really happy with that. It's very hard to make this kind of thing have the AI do anything intelligent at all, so it's pretty proud to have got to this point.
Was there a point during this when you were designing it and you thought maybe this isn't going to be fun to play against because it's a bit more a bit too literal? Because I think that was something you talked about.
A bit too much, what, sorry?
Not fun to play against. Like it's too sort of literal about predicting what you might do, so it doesn't really leave any gaps open.
Yeah, I definitely think there was a period before I started working on it where I thought that the sheer pleasure of beating another human being would be unreplicable in single player. It was sort of a problem I had with FS, so I was concerned about it with FS, and I was concerned about it here. And it turns out that that's baseless. Once the AI is good enough that you really feel like you are battling the computer. The pleasure is still there. People still like beating computers. They still like to feel like they've won. The key is just to never make it easy.
Yeah.
It's got to be legitimately hard.
Right.
And as soon as it started being legitimately hard, I saw people were loving playing it and saying yes when they beat the AI in the right way.
It's kind of funny when you see a lot of competitive games, particularly RTS, with the main single-player component is like this ridiculous circus that's built around the mechanics with like giant snakes coming up out of the ground and spaceships crashing into stuff. And the actual core of the competitive game, people don't really tend to try and make AI for that. I mean, although like the StarCraft AI is kind of okay, it's like nobody who seriously played multiplayer more than twice would ever want to play against it. So with this, it's like, this is almost a sort of halfway house between those two things, because this is genuinely competitive, but it still can't do the stuff that a real player would do in terms of reacting to like your personality of how you're playing.
That's right. The AI doesn't know what your general the general things that you would do are. I mean, the reason why it's so impossible to make AI for StarCraft is that the space is just too large. Chess is something that the AI is pretty good at, and that's because it's something which is sort of very narrow but very deep. It's something which requires a lot of memory and a lot of processing, but it does not require a huge number of different parts of our brain being used at once. I think Endzone is sort of somewhere on the barrier of being a big enough space to be a really interesting game, but also small enough to, in some ways, have the AI sort of work out. Just before I finish this, I'm just going to show you through a couple of the offensive plans that our AI has produced. So during the creation of the defensive plans, as I say, we come up with hundreds and hundreds of offensive plans. Once we have worked out what a good defense thing to do is, we start working out the kind of plans that might defeat some things. So here we have a pass into the middle. These little blue areas get a score. So the AI tries to get those on the way if possible, and then I don't know if I can. Oh, I can keep walking, and then he'll go down there. Now, one of the defensive plans will beat all of these offensive plans, but we don't know which one, basically. So through really quite a simple core concept, hopefully explained reasonably understandably, of just making a load of very simple offensive plans and then trying to beat them, we've actually sort of come out with a load of things that the player might do, and that's what produces sort of good AI, basically.
One of the things I like about this is that it's a little bit like the way a person plays the game. Like, you're trying to figure out, I mean, this does it in a sort of more raw and mathematical way in terms of like it picks loads and loads of plans. But you do think like, what are the 5 non-mental things that my opponent could do here, and like how can I cover as much of that as possible?
Right.
I think what do you think about sort of, is there ever any correlation between like the way a person would approach a problem and the way an AI should approach the problem? Does that lead to better gameplay, or is
I would say when you're trying to make an AI like that's kind of the first thing that I would want to look at. Because there are so many different ways of solving artificial intelligence problem, but probably the best is to try and get the AI to actually simulate a human rather than play the game as well as possible.
Yeah.
So that's definitely what I was going for.
Cool. I want to talk a little bit about the new pitch, actually, because you can actually see that. One of the things, we can't show you a picture of this, but we're taking the game in a little bit of a different direction. I think because of the name and because of the sort of American football influence, a lot of people think it's literally a football game, like they think it's Madden with robots. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually kind of taking it in a more futuristic direction. So we've recently redesigned the pitch. It doesn't have stripes on it anymore. It has these sort of frozen synapse referencing patterns on it that looks really nice. We also don't have dual uprights at the back that look like a football goal. We've got this kind of single column thing, which still retains the like nice composition of having a big tall thing, but doesn't necessarily make people automatically think that it's an American football goal. It's going to be used by an American football man, an American football suit, an American football ball, kicking the American football over and scoring the American football field goal. So we're really trying to make something that's kind of a lot more unique and distinctive, say like speedball or blood ball or something that's identifiably not a real sport. But as soon as people play the game, they get really excited about it as a strategy game. A lot of people are saying that they like it more than Frozen Synapse, which is always encouraging. When you've done something that people like, you tend to be absolutely terrified that nobody will like the next thing you do.
It was a very unique problem to have. We worked very hard to get some gameplay we really liked, and the gameplay isn't changing. I'm really, really proud of it. But to come out and have anyone who played it really like it, but the first thing they said, I thought this was an American football game, and it's not. Eventually we realised that wasn't just something people say that isn't a problem was actually a problem. So after about a couple of weeks ago, we just decided to go for it, change the shape of the ball, change the name, change a couple of things Paul's talking about, because we want you to see the game the way we see the game, which is an awesome, weird future sport, not a reskin of a boring real-life sport. So, you know, we've been in this industry for 12 years now, and we've seen every single kind of problem, and we've made every single kind of mistake. And I was hoping that we were going to make less mistakes, but
this is a new, different
mistake.
Exactly. That we're working on. But that's kind of one of the joys of early access, is you can actually see, you know, how people respond to stuff and tweak these things. And we're really happy with it. People seem to really like the game, and the press seem to like it as well. I think before we kind of wrap up and maybe take a few more questions, I'd quite like to talk about some of our plans for single player. So at the moment, when you buy the game, you get some single player skirmishes that use Ian's new AI, and you get kind of pretty fully fledged multiplayer. But we've got this idea for, we're calling it campaign mode, really, I guess, which is a very, very in-depth single player that's actually based around simulating an entire world around the sport. So not just simulating matches, but simulating what players do in their time off, simulating what the other coaches in the league are like, their personalities and motivations, and putting that all together. So Ian's got some pretty big plans for that.
Yeah, I mean, very much inspired by sort of Dwarf Fortress and the idea of this living world, and every time you play it, it is something new. All of the things that are stupid and funny that happen in sports are only stupid and funny because they're within the context of the real world. These are people doing these things, and these things have real implications for the sport and the world going forward. So many sports games will just create a random event, like your player got injured, your player got drunk in a bar, your player got divorced, something like that. But those events don't come from anywhere, and their implications are only very small ranging. They only mean that you have to do something special for the next 5 minutes. I want to make a game where your players get in a fight because they were in the same bar as one of the opposing team's players. And that's because we were simulating where the players are at all times. So, for instance, you have a big randomly generated city, and on the week of the game, when the game's in your city, your opposing team will fly in on a Thursday, you'll be choosing where they'll be staying, and then all these things will organically happen. We're also going to have a council of coaches. There'll be 8 teams in the single-player mode, and each will be fronted by a really characterful, well-drawn coach. They'll be talking to you all of the time, proposing trades, trash-talking you when you lose, being very angry when you beat them, and there'll be lots of things that you can vote on. Manipulating the council will be a really big deal, and you'll be able to change the rules of the game. You'll be able to change how many points a touchdown is worth, that kind of thing. So we really want to take modern, sort of roguey world design, build it around what I believe to be a really fantastic core gameplay, or sort of combat in RPG terms, and produce a living, breathing sports world.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing, as I'm responsible for the writing on the game, is that when you're playing a match against another coach, we'll actually use the AI to analyze your play. So the data that Ian's been showing you, the AI can get out of the game. The coach will know that, and they'll talk to you about it. They'll talk to you about how risky your play was. They'll mock you for it, that kind of thing. We've not really seen that done before. A lot of sports games tend to use audio commentary, which is obviously a lot less flexible than text. Because we're using text, we can really kind of go in depth into making those characters feel real and giving them a huge different range of reactions. So the commentary system that's in game right now uses that already, but it will be really cool to have that with loads of different characters all interacting. One of the things people say they want from the game right now is more personality, and I think we're really literally injecting that. We're trying to create personalities and put them in the context of the game.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest struggles of modern game development in the indie way is with all this early access, Kickstarter, betas and everything, you're always showing an unfinished product, and it's really a kind of a pick your poison about what's unfinished. It was really important to us to get the core gameplay right, to get the game looking like the game is going to look before we show it to anyone, because people are very literal and they will react to exactly what they see. And the single player and the campaign, and in some ways the personality, is what we decided to do last. So it's always a unique journey, even with all these new ways, which are much better than just having one single release, no chance to make a mistake and then correct it. It just throws up new challenges.
It is indeed a unique and beautiful journey, sometimes fraught with peril. Right, well, thanks very much for watching this and engaging with our sort of somewhat rambling, but I hope interesting range through Frozen End Zone. I think we've got a little bit more time for some questions, so if anyone would like to ask one, please approach the microphone of destiny.
And please don't ask me why my wife is annoyed with me today, because I won't answer.
Yeah, don't ask that.
You said earlier that the AI filters stupid ideas.
Right.
At what point do you decide that's a stupid idea, so the AI is going to discount it as a plan?
I think it's more that the systems that come up with the ideas are fairly limited in themselves. So if you tell the computer that it needs to get to the end zone without doubling back on itself, for instance, that's going to cut away a huge number of sort of stupid ideas. Trying to combine that with getting a creativity so that you're not like really constraining what the AI can be hard to do. But there is a stage in the processing near the very end where it chops off a load of plans saying a different plan did this better. So the answer to your question most literally is we start off with some stupid plans, but because we don't generate so many and because we have a system for telling when one is obviously better than the other, that's how a stupid plan is gotten rid of. If that makes sense.
Thanks.
It looks an awesome game.
Thank you.
When it's finally finished, how many maps and teams? I know there's going to be 8, but will you add any more teams after that?
In single player, we'll be simulating a lot of different leagues. So there'll be 8 at the top level, which will be when you're mostly playing. But we'll also have a foreign league, a college league, a minor league. So there'll be like over sort of 250 simulated teams in single player. Now they'll only differ in kind of colours and AI and attributes. In terms of visually,
what we've got to add in is like really extensive colour customization. So at the moment, you only have sort of random colours. We'll let you pick colours and do that in the best way that we possibly can. We already let you name players, so that kind of adds an element of your team. And also, I don't know what our plans are for armour yet. We'd like to do some stuff where you can swap in like different shoulder pads and different stuff like that, just to give it a bit of personalisation. If you buy one of the packages on early access right now, when the game launches, you'll get a special team that's unique only to that. So we are kind of looking into that stuff. In terms of stadiums, I think we're almost certainly going to have another one, so that'll bring the total to 3. They're quite difficult to make. There's a lot of art involved with them. I sneakily like to try and get it up to 4 if we have time. I don't know if we will, but you can see that there's quite a lot of different elements to a stadium, like the big skybox and all of the surrounding pitch stuff. So we just have to see how we go, but we really want to like kind of, as I said, flesh it out and like do as much of that stuff as we can. So
it really is a classic indie problem. The nicer you make anything look, the harder it is to make a lot of different parts of it. You know, we're using generated content here, you know, not as much as a lot of other games. It's so difficult to toe that line correctly.
Can you put the cursor on the peachoid real quick?
Oh yes, look at this.
This is a placeholder object which shouldn't be in the game right now, which we've nicknamed the peachoid, and that is being a placeholder for trophies that you'll be able to put in your stadium. So if you do something like win the league you have with your friends, you'll get a trophy. You can put that in your stadium, and then anyone who plays you will be able to see that. But it won't look like a giant peach by the end of development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. This is kind of a more general question, but I read an article in Edge magazine a while ago about you guys, and it seemed it was very difficult for you initially when you were starting out. So that's kind of I graduated 6 months ago. I'm a sound designer. I'm trying to come into the industry, find a way in. So if you were to give some advice to people like me, what kind of things would you say if you're just starting out, trying to get into the games industry? What would your advice be, just in general?
Oh, that's a good question, because my background was actually in sound and music. That's how I got into indie games. Basically, I think the only thing that will really benefit you massively at this point is meeting people. So you're obviously here at an event. There's loads of developers to talk to. As long as you have like a good show reel, which I assume you do, and you have prior work that you can show to people, then really, really overwhelmingly, the only thing is meeting developers, talking to them about what they need, getting introduced to their friends who need sound designers, all that kind of thing. And having great work really helps, but it's pretty much just networking. I mean, I knew Ian from school, and he told me he was making a game that he needed music for it, and I was like, wow, I get to make music for a game, awesome. So I did that, and then we sort of decided that we wanted to carry on working together after I left university, and I got more involved with the business, and kind of my role changed. With an indie team, you end up doing loads of different things. So I just think be open to being in a team, talk to loads of people, and that's all you can do, really.
Yeah, that's definitely why I'm here, but I'm from Northern Ireland, and to be quite frank, the games industry there is really, I'm non-existent. So if you know any developers, tell them to come to Belfast because it's there's
Sure
nobody
thing.
there. You know, it's right for the taking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other side, Paul's talking from one side of this. If you're going to make your own games, I think that the biggest tip I have this month is try not to be too focused on what's happening around you. The stuff that people talk most about tends to be the thing that is going to be old tomorrow. So you want to be the thing that people are talking about when you release your game. And the only way to do that really is to ignore everything that's going on and have a singular vision and really believe in it. So in terms of making your own game, that's probably the biggest
Yeah,
tip I'd
definitely.
give.
That is a really important point, actually. Like, definitely keep your own personality to things you do, and that will apply to you as well. If you're like the sound designer that does amazing vehicles, or the sound designer that does, find a niche for yourself. Like, that's, I guess.
Thanks so much.
Hope that was useful. Hello.
Hi.
Hiya. So, obviously, at the start of the game, your AI has to run through the methods to generate ideas and, cull them down into the optimal strategy. Does that sort of lead to the situation where the AI always responds the same way at the start of the match? Is that a problem?
Right, so the key to our games in general is that the terrain and the positioning of your players is randomly generated each time. Anyway, it's an interesting question you ask, and even in multiplayer games it bores me massively that you always start in the same position. I don't want to spend the first 10 minutes every game doing the same thing. That just makes me angry, to be honest. And this was my most direct response to that. I want the game to be different straight away. I think card games are often very exciting because the first thing that happens is that you pick up a new hand. It's very exciting, it's right at the beginning. That's where you should front load your excitement in that way. In terms of sort of a more sort of boring answer to your question on the AI, we have to put randomization in. If the AI was ever predictable, if it always did the shortest path, or the longest path, or the path that went blah, 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 a human would learn those rules and be able to react to it. So randomization is massively important here.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Great, I think that's all our questions for today. Any more? No last minute takers. So if we can say a huge thank you to Ian and Paul for closing Rezzed this afternoon with a really interesting presentation. If we can show them in the typical way, please.
Thank you very much. You've been a great audience.
Hope to see you all at Rezzed again next year. Thanks.
Yes, big thanks to everyone at Eurogamer and Rezzed for having us here. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all right. Oh, better take this off. It was terrible.